Welcome back to the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today I've bought a new Epiphone. Let's go ahead and unbox it. Now this is actually the first time I've ever bought a new Epiphone. My other Epiphone Les Paul Custom, that was one my mom bought me, 8-10 years ago. So here we go. Unfortunately, it doesn't even look like we get a gig bag or anything, but we do have like some sort of cheesecloth thing here. Interesting, it looks like Epiphone has some sort of strap lock system included, which is nice. Looks like our truss rod adjustment key. So which model did I decide to go for? It's the new Double Cut Pro. I saw these things get announced at NAMM, and I instantly fell in love with just how Epiphone these things were. Oh, wow. I was not expecting the top to move like that. The Music Zoo was nice enough to do a full setup on this one before they sent it out. So yeah, first impressions here. I'm digging this top. I initially wanted like the green ivy one or the Mojave fade, but this midnight ebony one, I thought it actually looked pretty good. I love how you have this like abalone with mother of pearl kind of combination inlay right there. We've got nice Grover tuners here. Apparently these are serialized as 2018 despite being the new 2019 models. They're made in China, set neck construction. The body is a little bit smaller than I thought it was gonna be. Like double cut LPs in general, I feel like their body is a little bit longer, is kind of what I'm saying. So it does feel rather small on me. The comfort cut on the back is definitely nice. It kind of helps it make it feel more comfortable because it rests right against your body if you would have it on a strap. At first glance here, I'm pretty happy with it. But let's go ahead, throw it on the workbench, check the specs out.
There appears to be some confusion as to what this guitar is actually called. When released at NAMM, many refer to it as the Epiphone DC Pro, but recently, many retailers that have these in stock have been listing them as the Epiphone Genesis-II DC Pro. Now it seems to be reverting back to just the DC Pro, but whatever it's gonna actually be officially called, this instrument is a modern take on the mid-90s model Epiphone Del Rey. This time it is back with equally as nice finish options and flame tops, but we have fancier inlays and binding on the now set neck, the dove wing headstock, as well as additional tonal opportunities.
Alright, I have it deassembled, so let's take a look at these parts. The pickup in this series of instruments is called the Pro Bucker 2 and the Pro Bucker 3. Essentially, Epiphone is saying they're very PAF-like, which is based on like the late 50s Gibson sound. The pickups themselves say designed by Epiphone USA. You have these markings as well as their manufacture date, which looks like it puts it to November of 2018. Same thing going on with your bridge pickup, Pro Bucker 3. Here's what our pickup cavities are looking at. You can see ME doesn't stand for me, it's Midnight Ebony. You can see you've got a nice long neck tenon in there, so definitely very secure. And then the bridge pickup cavity doesn't have a lot going on, just a single line. It can kind of be confusing when you're buying a guitar like this because this is a maple top, right? And that's the way it seems on so many websites like on Sweetwater and things like that. But if you go to Epiphone's website, they will tell you it's a veneer, but you can tell yourself if you just look in a pickup cavity. Now at first glance, I saw, okay, there's a color there, there's a color there, so wow, that is definitely a thick top. But no, take a closer look. That color difference right there, that's just simply the gloss finish running over it. If we get up really close, you can tell that's still the mahogany wood grain, so this is a very thin, real maple veneer. You can kind of see what I'm talking about again right here. So that is literally just the thickness of what you're seeing right there of the kind of black finish. So essentially what that means they're doing is they're taking a block of maple, they're cutting it like cheese, really thin layers, and placing it over top. That way they can still deliver the appearance of a AAA flame maple top, but without having to put a full slab of it on there. So it's a great way to spice these guitars up, because I truly believe that people wouldn't be as gaga over these things if they didn't have such a nice look to them. Bridge-wise, we have the lock tone Tune-o-matic, styled kind of after the Gibson ABR1, but branded Epiphone. And they call it lock tone because if you look in there, there's these little ridges, and they lock in place. And that makes these incredibly hard to take off. There you can see those 3 tabs. So once you place it on, one side is usually pretty darn locked down and kind of tough to get out. The tailpiece utilizes a similar technology. You can see those tongs right there as well. But it's just your standard stop bar tailpiece that reads Epiphone on the back. So we've established a flame maple veneer. You can see the mahogany body. But this fretboard is made of something called pau ferro. It's essentially what all these manufacturers are using to replace rosewood for the time being until the whole site's regulations get readjusted. But you can see it's kind of like a lighter color than most rosewoods. But I kind of like the smoky ashiness of it. I think it does look kind of interesting. And I'm digging these inlays. They call them the block and triangle inlays. So you have like a pearloid mother of pearl material here. And then this is what is called abalone. So that definitely spices up the look of this guitar. And what I like about this being kind of like an ebony greenish color is that it matches the finish of this one. Because it might be called Midnight Ebony, but there's definitely some green in there. But the whole triangle thing stops after the 15th fret and they just become regular inlays. The nut appears to be cut very well. They're using something called New Bone from Graphtec. Now you can tell if you have one of those because they conveniently place it right there. Now as far as build quality and all that, I mean the fret ends, they definitely feel nice. They're not super sharp. Up here, it almost looks like there's some defects in the wood. Like that looks like splintering and whatnot, doesn't it, at this light angle? But it's just like a darker color to the fretboard. Like you don't actually feel a difference, so I don't think we can fault them for anything like that. Face of the headstock here, truss rod cover reads DC Pro. It kind of has this cutaway area up here. But there is a truss rod in there, and they do give you the key to adjust that new. And this vine and flower inlay right here, I guess is 1940s era. And they consider this headstock the dove wing. I would guess that is if we cut this off and turned it into like a bird, that's kind of how the wings slope down as it's flying. But I personally really like this elongated Epiphone headstock because it feels like they're trying to do something that's their own versus just trying to be a cheaper Gibson. Something I am a little bit upset by is it appears this one has a ding from the factory that was missed because that's kind of like the clear coat popping up there. That's kind of unfortunate. Some other flaws that I'm finding here is there's some pretty deep scratches right here, kind of where your arm would rest. And along some of these frets, there's like something you can feel. It's almost like a hard super glue or something. I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure if that'll affect playability. It almost feels like the frets were just defigured. But you can see that there, and then like on the other side of this fret. Then there was a little bit up here, but I was able to rub that off. So I'll have to try to get that off with a little bit of steel wool. But besides that, the frets are nice and shiny. So after a little bit of steel wool treatment, you can see it removed most of it. I'm not really quite sure what that was. Pickup readings, the neck is a 7.7 k ohms. Bridge in the circuit is 8.46, so that's a little bit hotter than your standard type of PAF. And your middle position reads out about 4. Now this just might be because I'm fairly new to Epiphones, but I noticed this 3-way toggle switch, besides being advertised as all metal, notice it moves up and down, left and right, all over. But the only way it really should be moving is right there. So is that a big deal? Not really. Maybe I've just been spoiled by the Switchcraft versions, but they definitely do not move around as much as that one. The scale length is 24 3/4 inches, and the nut width is 1.69 inches. And by the 12th fret, we're at 2.06. First fret neck depth, 0.81 inches. And by the 12th fret, we're at 0.96. The neck profile is described by Epiphone as a custom C neck, and it really is nice and comfortable. It kind of starts off a little bit thin here, but then it definitely gets wider and a little bit chunkier in the soloing area. Another nice vintagey feature is they have what they consider the thumb bleeders. They just kind of point to what position on the knob you're at. That's just kind of an old style thing that makes this look even cooler. In the back control cavity, okay, so what it looks like they've done is they have 3 push-pull pots here, and then a regular style pot. These top 2, I'm guessing, are for the coil splitting of the neck and bridge pickup, so it's not just one pot for that, you actually control them individually, which is good for blending different sounds in the middle position. And then this one is your phase invert switch, which would be your neck tone knob. And your other one is just a regular pot that says made in Korea. But that's a pretty nice looking cavity route there, definitely good quality. Another feature, it's kind of hard to see with all these wires in the way, but you see that capacitor right there? That is acting as a treble bleed.
Which means as you roll your volume knob down, you'll no longer lose the treble in your signal like you would traditionally. It allows it to bleed through.
The backside of your control plate also has shielding tape over it, and then obviously you can see the protective coating still on the back plate. And then a similar story with the toggle switch cavity, shielding, and just your toggle switch in there. While we're back here, the body measures about 13 3/4 of an inch long from the neck heel to the bottom of the instrument. And at the lowest point is about 12.5 inches, and then from horn to horn it's about 9. So it's a little bit smaller than a Les Paul, because those are usually 13 and 9. This is how the heel joint is done. Personally, I think they kind of dropped the ball here. This is supposed to be an all-access neck joint, which it looks pretty good, like you get all the frets, but I can already tell it's very uncomfortable past about the 22nd fret, because this is a 24 fret guitar, but you're going to have to really reach over to get these, because this cutaway is just really in your way. I almost feel like they should have sculpted this out a little bit more in order to make it so you have room, because you see how my pinky kind of just rubs against the body right here? So if you need access all the way up to the 22nd fret, and that's all you really ever need, great for that. But if you need something to get to that 24th fret very easily, I would not recommend this guitar for that. You have your inspection sticker right there, as well as the handcrafted in China. This is apparently a 2018 model, as you can see right there, designed for 2019. Set up and inspect, and it just has this style of serial number, I'm guessing 18 standing for 2018. And you have Grover tuners at an 18:1 ratio. This particular example weighs 7 pounds, 5.8 ounces. And we're definitely going to have to check this for neck dive, because it feels like it might actually be neck heavy. And kind of as I thought, it does have a little bit of neck dive to it. So regular playing position, hands away, it does fall down a little bit. So what that means, no, it's not a garbage guitar. You just need to keep in mind that you need a more gripping strap to play with this guitar, if you're worried about something like this. At least it's not so extreme that it just keeps going to the floor, though.
So now that we've learned about this guitar, let's go ahead and plug it into my Mesa Boogie and Runt 20 to see how it sounds with clean and dirty tones.
So what are my final thoughts on the Epiphone Double Cut Pro now that I've owned it for a few days? I think it's a pretty good guitar, but there's definitely some pros and cons we need to discuss. Personally, I think the best thing that this guitar has going for it is it looks fantastic. You've got the beautiful headstock, you got the inlays again, and you have that maple veneer. But you also have 5 awesome finishes: Black Cherry, Faded Cherry Sunburst, Midnight Ebony, Mojave Fade coming soon, and Wild Ivy. Now, something you might not realize is Midnight Ebony and Wild Ivy get a little bit left out because the backs of them are not transparent. And Mojave Fade's still kind of in the air yet because one doesn't exist, but you can see such beautiful figured mahogany on the backs of those. That's something that these finishes are missing. The next thing is the clean tones I thought were fantastic out of this guitar. If you want something to do jazzy stuff with and have all of these different tonal opportunities with splitting and phase inversions, great for that. On top of that, they're pretty lightweight as we saw when we put it on the scale, and these are very comfortable to sit down with because the comfort carp is very helpful when doing that. And the fourth point is I really love the location of the toggle switch. If this would have been down here, I wouldn't have even wanted this model. That was the sole reason why I wanted to purchase one of these, because it was very Les Paul-like, but not at the same time. Now, some people might hate it there because they're going to be strumming and accidentally whack it, but for me, it's a pro. But now let's talk about the cons of this guitar. $599, that's pretty pricey for an Epiphone. Now, I always hate comparing new guitars to used guitars, but you can pick up a used Gibson Les Paul Studio for the same kind of money. But even comparing to like a brand new Brendan Small Snow Falcon, which I have also reviewed, that guitar is only $300 more. You get a nice limited edition gig bag. You get Gibson USA burst buckers. It also has coil splitting and a kill pot on it. Obviously, it's a flying V, so it's a little bit different, but I really think a lot of that price comes down to just how beautiful this guitar looks. They do sell cases separately for these at $120, which I think is a fairly okay deal. Another con is take a look at the design of this comfort cut. Since they have their toggle switch cavity right here, they couldn't continue the cut. So when you have this on a strap, at least the way I play it, the comfort cut doesn't even hit me at all, because I'm riding up against the side of the instrument like this instead of over here. So small complaint there. Obviously, we discussed the whole neck dive thing. It is a little bit neck heavy, but I really don't think it's going to be a huge issue for most people. I did not really like these pickups distorted. I felt they were good enough to do the job, but they lacked a little bit of clarity and punch. I think if I adjusted the pickup height a little bit, that might help that. But with all the fancy electronics on this thing, I would feel bad to buy one of these and then upgrade the pickups. Because this is a quick connect system, so to put something else in, besides splicing on those connectors to your new pickups, you would have to rewire everything. The fret access past the 22nd fret is kind of garbage, as we were discussing earlier. And one last thing with this guy. I'm not sure if this is with all Pal-Faro fretboards. I didn't end up cleaning this one for reasons we'll discuss later. But my fingers actually started to slightly turn black while playing this. I'm guessing that's just some like dirt buildup on this fretboard, but I'm not really sure on that. So would I suggest the new Epiphone Double Cut Pro? Yes. I think in a few years, once they've mass produced these things and you can pick them up used for like $400 to $450, oh buddy, these things are going to be a fantastic deal. Their new price, $599, yeah, it's pricey for an Epiphone, but I think it's worth it for all the features that these have. Now, initially, this was part of the show where I was going to say, this guitar is part of my Trade Tuesday series. If you're interested in trading me something for this guitar, let me know. But unfortunately, I contacted the Music Zoo about the scratching in this area of the guitar, and my main concern here was the ding on the headstock. I mean, I paid brand new price for this, it shouldn't have that, and they agreed that the return of this guitar would be the best option. So I didn't plan for this to be a buy review and then return, but unfortunately it kind of happened that way due to some of the defects on this model. So I hope you troglodytes enjoyed this up-close look at the new Epiphone Double Cut Pro 2. I'll find something else for our Trade Tuesday series. It just seems to get harder and harder. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care.